Hello, everyone, and warm welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast, where we're going to be previewing 10 races for you over the next just under an hour, hopefully. 10 races, the majority of them grade ones, and some big handicaps as well for the first 2 days of Aintree's Grand National Meeting, joined by Declan Ricks at Hawkwing 2002. Never forget. How are you, Rixie?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Deasy is along with us, as you would expect, given it's the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. And Deasy is an SBC Award nominated tipster. Deasy, all right?
Very good. Vote for me.
Good. Vote for Deasy. And Donn McClean is along with us. Donn, okay, you're everywhere between the flat and the jumps at the moment. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Tom. Yeah, clocking up tomorrow. Unfortunately, sadly, not at Aintree. But there you go.
It's just it won't be the same, Donn.
It won't be the same for me anyway. That's for sure.
No. I'm going to get a photo and put it. I'll put it on the Aintree gates of you.
Oh, great! That would be. I would appreciate that. Yeah, that would kind of get halfway there. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't feel you would really appreciate that. Actually,
it would definitely soften the blow.
Yeah, I bet it would. Right, the usual reminders before we start. If you're watching on YouTube, give this video a like, which is a thumbs up, and you can subscribe for free. It makes sense to do so. Whatever podcast app you're listening to us on, please do give us a 5-star review and a follow as well, for obvious reasons. I've mentioned the Smart Betting Club Awards, where Deasy is a nominated tipster, and once again, we are nominated, trying to make it 4 in a row to be the best betting podcast. So your vote would be really appreciated. There's a link to vote in the description on YouTube and the podcast as well. And it's pinned on the Matchbook Twitter page. So please head there. As we normally do with all the big festivals, we've got a £25 free bet for you. So let us know who wins the Grand National. The winners will get a £25 free bet. You can comment on YouTube or Twitter to win, and the winner will be picked at random from any correct answers on who wins the big one, the Grand National, for a £25 free bet. And finally, don't forget timestamps will be available for each day. You can check them out in the description. It makes it useful to go to exactly where you want to go to. That's it. All the business done. Let's get stuck into the first of the grade ones. It's not on ITV, weirdly. It's the 145, the Manifesto Novices Chase. I'll give you some prices. Pick Dory, because we've got some strobe lighting going on in front of me, is 3.75. Warlord 3.8. Gin on Lime is 4.3. I'll give you the prices off the back of that. Micheál Deasy, who do you like and why?
I'm starting off with a fav. I like Pick Dory. I think he has progressed fairly well this season. I know that when he won the Untitled Hurdle a few years ago, like he was always kind of down to be a future chaser. He would almost have 4 wins out of 5. I think when he fell there when Naslan beat him in Newbury in November, but I think he was going to win that race. The only time he's been beaten was when he came up against Long Press and Mr. Coffee, who are fairly high class. I don't think this is as deep a race as anything he's been in all year. While I good time for Warlord and Miller's Bank, but I think Pick Dory could be just a bit better than these, and I think he's going to get favourite backers off to a good start.
I love it when these races shape up like this, because I'm with you and Pick Dory, and Rixie and Donn are with Warlord. I don't have a huge amount to add, other than I sort of had in my mind maybe he wants to go right-handed, but maybe that's because he won at Ascot and Kempton, but then he won at Foss last. He was going to win at Newbury. I think he's rated to be the best horse in the race. Good job Steve Jones isn't with us. I think he's a good bit better than these. So argue otherwise. Dom, why is Warlord going to win?
Yeah, look, you have to respect Pick Dory. I just think there's a lot of pace in this race, Tom. Like Pick Dory likes to go forward. Gin and Lime, I'm looking forward to seeing her again. We haven't seen her since she won that bizarre 2-horse race against My Drogo back at the November meeting at Cheltenham. But she likes to go forward. Erin River, he likes to go forward as well. And I just, again, ally that to the fact that Warlord, he's been running over 2 miles over fences all season, but he is a horse who stays further. He stayed further over hurdles. He stayed 2.5 miles. I remember staying on well to win over 2.5 miles at Haydock as a hurdler. And even at Cheltenham, they were kind of thinking about going for the 2.5 mile race instead of the Arkle. They went for the Arkle, and he just ran in the Arkle like a horse who would appreciate further. I think he's going to get the fast pace that suits him well. Brendan Powell can just ride him patiently in behind what's almost certain to be a fast pace. And I think I think the step up into 2.5 miles will bring about further improvement in him. So yeah, I think he's got a big chance.
Rixie, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, not a whole pile. I actually agree with what everyone says about their respective horse. I think Pictori is probably comfortably, just in terms of raw ability, the best horse in the race. There's two things with him. It's his jumping and the ground. We haven't actually talked about the ground yet. But look, I think given the high profile nature of this meeting, that Aintree are probably under pressure a little bit to, if they had a chance of over watering or just watering, I think they'd probably overwater. And I think Pictori does want proper good ground. He does jump well, but I just think when he gets in tight, he has no idea what he's doing. He looks a bit rigid sometimes in how he jumps. And as Donn said, with the Widowmaker in here and Gin Online, there's going to be a bit of pace. So I don't think he's going to get all his own way. On the other hand, with Warlord, he's a very good jumper. He's quite solid. And he just looks to me like he's been begging to go step up and trip. But look, I think it's a bad grade 1, to be honest. I think like a lot of the Tizzard horses at Cheltenham over and over the years, they placed their horses terribly. Warlord wasn't really good enough to run in an arc. He wasn't good. He should have ran in one of the handicaps. And if he ran in the handicap on the Wednesday, given all the rain that fell, he might have had a really serious chance. Look, it's a bad race, but I just think it all comes down to basically Warlord being the best probably jumper of the market leaders in the race. I would give a positive mention to this Earn River. Got a lot of untapped potential. Goes up in class, a big step up in class, but there's something really, really likable about him. If Aintree did overwater and it was kind of proper kind of soft ground, I think he'd probably he's a good chance as well. But an interesting betting race to kick us off anyway.
Yeah, it is. So Pictori 3.75, Warlord 3.8. I suppose that my angle there is that Pictori should be shorter than that, a bit more between them. Totally take the point of Donn and Rixie. We've had some comments. Interesting, Rixie saying that the Tizzards place their horses terribly at Cheltenham. I've had a comment from J Tiz who says, "Screw you, Rixie, you knob." We won't put that one up. Alex Jeffrey says Paul needs Pictori to win, or he's just going to look a fool all Aintree. Interesting. I think the point about Nichols is he's got loads of ammo for Aintree because he saved his big guns for this and didn't really run them at Cheltenham. Peter says no love for Gin surprising. He likes Gin Online. Interesting that she's been off for such a long time. Right, let's kick on to the next race. Incidentally, if you're expecting a Fox Hunters preview, tough. We chose to do that race instead because it seems a livelier betting heat, or basically we know more about those ones. Pied Piper is 2.14 for this. Brazil is 3.55. Petit Tonnerre is 11.0. Night Salute 18.0, and Fountainette 21.0. I'll kick us off because I'm of the opinion that if you back all the favourites on day 1 and 2, you're going to make money. And I know that's probably not the most sensible way to go, but I'm with Pied Piper, who has the best form. Thought he ran very well in the race, which holds the key here, surely, when he was third at Cheltenham to Vauban and his stable companion. Yes, Brazil was impressive last time, but I still thought emerged as the second best horse in the race, and Gallic Warrior would probably have won if it had kept a little bit straighter and sounder late on. And again, I mean, it's a frighteningly weak grade 1, and I think Pied Piper it's his race to lose. I'm happy enough with his price. I thought there was a case that he could be odds on for this. I know that he was mightily impressive when he beat up everything at Cheltenham, and I was against him at going back to Cheltenham against the best of the Irish. He was beaten 2 3/4 lengths by Vauban, which is so far and away the best form. I'm surprised on official ratings there's only a pound between he and Brazil, who is the choice of Rixie and Donn. Rixie, you can go first this time. You too.
Look, I think just at the prices, I'm going to side with Brazil. I've only got £3 between them. I had Brazil running to 140 at Cheltenham and Pied Piper to 143. The Elite Yard maybe not thriving like you'd want them, and that probably was the thing that swung it for me in the end. Look, I wouldn't be surprised at all, obviously, if Pied Piper goes and bolts up. I just think he looks like a horse who thrives off a strong pace. We saw that at Cheltenham when he won earlier in the season. He can be a little bit gassy and takes just a little while to settle down. Nothing bad, but Brazil, we've seen a couple of times. He looks really progressive, this horse. His last 2 runs, he's taken 2 considerable step forwards. And, you know, he likes to race prominently and races professionally. He's not as good a jumper as Pied Piper, but I think he might be a little bit more generous off the bridle. I love the way this horse really, really knuckles down. He puts his head down and he gallops strongly. So, yeah, just at the prices and with maybe a little cloud over the Elliott yard, that's what swung it for me. So, yeah, Brazil for me.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Really, since Cheltenham, they were disappointing at Cheltenham, and you know they've been hitting the crossbar with a few, but they haven't had as many winners as they would have liked. Donn, Brazil.
Yeah, just on Gordon Elliott's form, I do think they're coming back into form now. Like as you say, Tom, he's had a few horses have run. I think he had 3 seconds there the other day, and they definitely would have shared your concerns a little while ago, but I think they're starting to run into form now, which is no bad thing. But no, Brazil, I just really like Brazil. I thought what he did at Cheltenham was phenomenal because he was very badly hampered at the flight in front of the stands. Gaelic Warrior jumped out to his right as he did throughout the whole race, and in fact he didn't do him any favors throughout the whole race, but particularly at the flight in front of the stands, he hampered Brazil very badly. He went from like kind of in the front rank, just a half a length off the pace, to about 8th or 9th, and then after the flight they turn away from the stands, and Mark looked like they weren't going at a great pace, so Mark Walsh was able to use them up a little bit to get his good position back. But like normally at Cheltenham in a race as competitive as the Fred Winter, that should be the end. You shouldn't really come back from that, and he did well to get back from it. And as Declan said, he was one of the first horses off the bridle on the run down the hill. He just found loads for pressure. He won he's a full brother to Capri, an Irish Derby winner, and a St. Leger winner. So he's got the breeding there. He won over I think it was a mile on heavy ground for Aidan O'Brien. He was Padraig Roach's first runner in Britain, and he won one of the Cheltenham festivals. So look, it's a good story there. But more than that, what he did at Naas on his run before at Cheltenham was very, very impressive. I thought he did really well to beat a potentially seriously well handicapped horse in Gaelic Warrior at the Cheltenham Festival. And after that, like you had to go to a Grade 1 race. I was thinking maybe the 4-year-old hurdle at Punchestown, but obviously Connections are happy to allow him go now again, just a couple of weeks, 3 weeks after his Cheltenham run. And yeah, I think Pied Piper is a very good horse, but I think he could be beatable. I think from Brazil, like as you say, Tom, he's only got a pound to find official ratings, but I think he's got more potential in him. I think he can progress again. I think he could be a serious hurdler for next season, albeit we know how hard it is for the 4-5-year-olds in their next season. But I think there's an awful lot to like about Brazil, and yeah, I think he's the most likely winner of the race.
Yeah, I love his profile. I mean, it is perfectly JP, isn't it? 3 runs where he wasn't really sighted, and then I think there was a bit of shit yourself. We might not get into the Fred Winter, so let's piss up at Naas, and then goes and wins the Fred Winter. Job done. He wasn't missed by many, was he? He was an 11.0 shot for the Fred Winter. He's a cracking profile. He could easily be a Grade 1 horse in the making. We'll see. Slightly bigger price for you, Dees. I wonder who's he going to blame? Is he going to blame the producer?
Somebody.
Sometimes he blames the producer, and sometimes he blames himself. Who are you going to blame, Dees? He's still not there. Right.
Hello?
Oh my God, he's in a fishbowl.
Is it working up?
Oh, he sounds weird. Right. What we'll do, you meet yourself, Dees, and we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you.
He's in the Matchbook Space Hub.
He is really, and yeah. I think we might have a microphone problem. What I want to do is just bring in Peter's comment, because Peter said, because this was the question I was going to ask. You should be hosting this, Peter. He says, how much does the team take into account how recent horses have run at Cheltenham? Is Aintree potentially too soon for many? And I do think that's something we need to think about. I was looking at the Bowl, for example. I think the last 6 winners of the Bowl all ran at Cheltenham. Don, what do you think? Do you make any hard and fast rules about this?
No, I don't, Tom. And it's, obviously different horses respond in different ways. It's been 3 weeks since Cheltenham. It's a fair enough break. It's a worry for sure if a horse is at a hard race at Cheltenham, especially on the second day, on the Wednesday. That would be something to take into consideration. But and we've seen down through the years, and there are lots of pieces written on profiles of horses going to Aintree, but it's not. I don't think it's a major negative across the board. But depending on the type of horse that it is, it's something you need to just bear in mind, I think. And the likes of, you know, Brave Man's Game, for example, who skipped Cheltenham, going on to Aintree, that's obviously not a negative, but yeah, it's a factor. But I think it's hard to take it into account when you don't know the magnitude of it, you don't know the extent of it, and you don't know how horses are going to react, bar they have previous form in coming back after a race 3 weeks later. But yeah, it's definitely something to take into account, but I don't have the answer to it.
No. I mean, I think no hard and fast rules is the way to go about it. Take it horse by horse, and you know who may have looked as though they had a really hard race and who didn't. I remember Mike Bite finishing second to Native River in the Gold Cup, and me thinking, no way is that horse coming. And he came back and he bolted up in a bolt. So it's difficult. Rixie, do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, I just think you kind of judge horses on individual merits. Maybe kind of try and get to know horses physically, see the horses who are kind of robust enough to take racing. You know, you probably don't want to be with those light-framed horses. And I think the clock, as well as your friend like Brazil, I wouldn't be worried about him now having a hard race at Cheltenham, because for a Cheltenham handicap in the Fred Winter, they crawled around. So, yeah, I think when you get horses putting up big performances on the clock and figures, off end-to-end gallops, that's maybe then when it'll be a bit of a red flag for me.
Okay, Deasy, your selection for the juvenile.
Am I back now? Can you hear me?
You are. Beautiful.
Okay. This is definitely my weakest selection of the day, but I went for 𝗕𝗲𝗁𝗃𝗁.
Great. Glad we waited for it. Good.
Yeah, John, just I thought, yeah. It would have been Brazil out of the top two, but I'm just opposing him based on price. This will be a win place bet. 𝗕𝗲𝗁𝗃𝗁 won fairly well at Market Race and his British debut without looking like a horse that you know will improve for a few more races. He was a bit messy. They said it themselves. They didn't send him to Cheltenham. They've given him a bit more time. I just think as a win place bet, I could see Piper bombing out. I am worried about the Garden of farm, to be honest. And I think Brazil probably could go off close to favourite. I'd say there'll be a lot of money for him. I think he was very impressive. So I've gone for another horse. I just think that just on the prices, he's 11.0 now. He's drifting a small bit, but I think he's a nice win place bet. There's a lot of them in here that are probably no hopers, and he's what you call it. There's definitely something there for me, and the fact that he's with John Neal rides him as well. I think that he must be a good horse if JP's after buying him and sending him there. So I'll have a small win place betting him for this.
11.0. Right, let's kick on to the 255. This is the Betway Bowl. Protectorat's 4.4, Clanders Oboe's 5.7, Conflated 6.0, Kenboy 6.8, Royal Pagaille, Eldorado Allen 8.0, Royal Pagaille 8.6, bigger prices the rest. Oh, I love this. I've been round and round the houses with this. Okay, God, you too, Rixie and Donn, get a room. Donn, you can take it. You can start off.
I just saw Rixie's tips and I just copied most of them. I just said, yeah, they'll do for me.
You're in trouble, so.
Yeah, Eldorado Allen. Look, I had him on side for the Ryanair, and he was never going to be able to match Allaho, but I thought he ran very well there. He tried to match Allaho over the first couple of fences. Brendan Powell decided that wasn't going to work, so he sat in behind him after a little while. And I thought he did well to keep on to finish third. But even more than that, I think the step back up in trip will suit him better, because he was a 2 miler. He won the Halden Gold Cup earlier in the season, and I thought in the Peterborough Chase at Huntingdon, he shaped as if he would appreciate going further, and he proved that in the Denman Chase at Newbury at the Betfair Hurdle meeting, and he stayed on really well to beat Royal Pagaille. I think 3 miles on goodish ground is pretty close to ideal for him. And look, Protectorat sets a high standard. Clanders Oboe comes here fresh. Conflated was unlucky to fall in the Ryanair Chase, but I'm not sure he would have finished in front of Eldorado Allen. I think he'd done a lot of running to get there, and Eldorado Allen might have stayed on past him and he and Janadale, I think, still would have finished second and third. Royal Pagaille, ground might not be soft enough for him, for all they did run well in the Gold Cup. But I just think Eldorado Allen is still an underrated horse. I thought he was underrated going into Cheltenham. I still think he's an underrated horse. And the Tizzards do well at Aintree, bar maybe last year, and the horses weren't in good form. But I think he comes into the race on an upward curve. I think, the trip ground should be pretty much close to optimum for him, and he's an 8.0 or thereabouts. I think that's fair.
Declan?
Yeah, I think Donn has kind of summed that up nicely. I like the profile on this flat track of a horse going up in trip, especially given he looked to stay very well in the Denman Chase. And to be honest, I think if the Tizzards had him in the Gold Cup, he probably would have run in the Gold Cup. He's got that natural pace for a flat track going up in trip, and you'd be worried on a flat track with good in the description about Protectorat and Royal 𝗵𝗀𝗀. They look like horses with good cruising speeds but are susceptible to horses with that touch of class and a bit of pace. So I just like the profile of Eldorado going up. But look, he's won now. You'd be a little bit worried about having a tough race at Cheltenham because, as Donn said, he did chase Allaho early. He was the horse to sit closest to Allaho throughout that race, and Allaho did go. I know it doesn't look like he goes a strong gallop, but he covers a lot of ground easily, and they did go a good pace that day. So you'd just be a little bit worried about that. I'd give Conflated a decent mention as well. I think the way the race panned out at Cheltenham, I think he would have been a comfortable second to Allaho, just because he sat off that pace that day. But he's one horse I was a little bit worried going into Cheltenham was when he won the Irish Gold Cup, was it a bit of a fluke, just how the race panned out. But I think at Cheltenham he proved that it wasn't a fluke. He's just a good horse now, this lad. But he is one you'd be a little bit worried about mentally taking a fall, because I think the Elliott team for a long time now, they've said about this horse, look, he's got loads of ability, but mentally we don't know what he's going to do. So I just think that Eldorado Allen, the pacey horse going up in trip, I just think if all is well with him, he might just have a little bit too much tactical pace for the likes of Protectora and Royal 𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗀.
Just on Conflated, I've got it in my head that he's a nut job, and the Leopardstown win was a fluke. Maybe that's completely unfair. But they don't saddle him. They don't. Davy Russell came out into paddock before Conflated did, so they wait until he was in the pre-parade ring. They wait until the jockey comes out, and then they get the horse out, just because they want him in the parade ring for as little time as possible. He's just. I just wouldn't have ultimate faith in him personally. I'm with Protectorat. I know he's right at the top of the betting, but I think he should be. I just thought Clanders Oboe, I was too disappointed with him last time. Fraud Blinkers might freshen him up. I don't trust Conflated. Kenboy was mightily disappointing, I thought, last time. I know he won this a few years ago. And I don't quite think, I think the other way around. I think Protectorat is a superior, classier horse than Eldorado Allen, and I know he looked good at Newbury, but that was I don't really trust any of the Newbury form, other than the novice we're going to come to a little bit later on. So it was really a process of elimination. I thought possibly he should be a stronger favourite. Protectorat. Deasy.
Just a mute there. I know Kenboy is my selection in this. I'm against Protectorat because I think he was just tuned up to the last for the Gold Cup. I don't think Dan Skelton was like, look, hopefully he'll run well in the Gold Cup and then we'll go win an entry. I'd say he was out for the Gold Cup and could possibly be over the top. And again, he's a short enough price. Clanders Oboe, I just don't think maybe the fire burns as brightly as it used to. They put the blinkers on for the first time here. Now that worked well last year, but if you look at the race last year, there was nothing, I think, of the class of some of these horses in it. And Kenboy put up the second best, just on his ratings, the second best performance of his career ever was in this when he won in 2019. Willie Mullins has kept him fresh for it. This is going to be the first part of, I'd say, a few appearances this spring in the big festivals. I can't see him out of the top three. He's not a great win place price, but you could have a good chunky place bet that will cover your win bet if he doesn't lose, and you could probably still end up in profit.
Okay, let's move on. We're all done on the Aintree Bowl. We kick on to the 3:30. This is the Hurdle, and Epatont is 3.05 from Zanahir, who's 3.2. Bruin Up a Storm is 6.6. Monmoral 11.5. Glory and Fortune 14.5. Fabulous 17.5. Guard Your Dreams 29.0. Donn and Deasy are Team Bruin. I was close as well, to be honest. Go on, Deasy. Take it away.
Yeah, I was looking at the top two in this, and the way I can see this race panning out is that Zanahir and Epatont will probably go off. I think Zanahir will have to make the running in this. He'll try and stretch him and go for the front. Hopefully they will tire each other out. Brewing Up a Storm is a strong stayer. I can see them being a bit of a pace collapse, and he'll pick him up after the last and just stay to the line better than him. That's the whole argument, really.
Donn?
Yeah, look, I am looking forward to seeing Zana here going up in trip, and he would have been my selection if he'd been a bit bigger, if his price was a wee bit bigger, because I think he's a horse who has been crying out for the step up in trip. Like his run in the Triumph Hurdle didn't go fast enough for him there. He's been in very good form all season. He was only beaten the neck by Sharjah in the Matheson Hurdle, which is the race Sharjah always wins. And now he probably had the run of the race that day, much more so than Sharjah did. But he still ran well, and he's a horse who could, I think he could step up and trip, and this could be the start of it going into next season. But he's just short, a wee bit shorter. I just think the discrepancy between him and Brewing Up a Storm is big enough to make Brewing Up a Storm the bet. And yeah, like again, he should have won the National Spirit Stakes at Fontwell last time. He got to the front, he did it all, got there, and then just started looking around him, and Botox Has came back up on his inside and beat him. So it's interesting they're putting cheek pieces on him for the first time. I think that's a good angle. He is a horse who does have to be played late. I think that he travels so well through his race. He's got good form at Aintree as well. He finished 5th in this race last year. He wasn't beaten that far, and then he went back there in November and won well. So over the course and distance, 2.5 miles, it suits him very well. And yeah, I just think like even his run at Lingfield on heavy ground was good when he battled on well to beat Darver Star in a competitive small field. But I just think that he's better than he showed the last time at Fontwell in the National Spirit which he won last year. He beat McFabulous in that race last year. He probably should have won it again this year. And back at Aintree with cheek pieces on and probably played late. Ideally played late. Like, you know, at Aintree, you've got that long home straight, which allows you to play a horse late over hurdles. So I can just see him arriving at the final flight and then Sean Bowen asking for his effort on the run-in. And I think he could go very close. And yeah, I think 6.0 is more than fair about him.
You're with Zana here, Rixie.
Yeah, just about. I just thought, I think he's probably a likely stronger stayer than Epatante. I thought he should be just marginal favourite. Look, as I said earlier, I was worried about the Gordon Elliott stable a little bit with Pied Piper earlier, but you know, this is such a bad race that I think, you know, he could even maybe. It is. There's not one horse in here rated in the 160s. You know, it's awful. It really is. So I just think he could maybe even underperform a little bit from Cheltenham and still probably win. I don't think there's a lot of pace on in here. There's only Monmiral and Zanny here who like to go forward. I could see Monmiral having an easy lead out in front. Zanny here just sitting on his girts in second, getting a lead. But you know, I can't see anything in Monmiral's form that White Cobden would ride him over McFabulous, to be honest. He's coming here fresher, but look, I suppose the Nichols team, they see more than us at home, so you've got to respect the decision. Like, I like Brewing Up a Storm. We shouldn't forget his career best effort came over this course and distance at the start of the season when he looked very good that day, to be fair. I just sometimes worry about his jumping. He doesn't inspire me with confidence. He looks like a horse who lacks confidence jumping. He's had a couple of nasty falls throughout his career. He should have won last time out, you know, should have beat Botox Has. To be fair, he probably idled and maybe Aidan Coleman put him in front a little bit too soon. Glory and Fortune, I think he's really progressive, this horse. I just worry about the ground for him. I think he needs proper good ground. And you know, even I think McFabulous, I can't believe I'm going to give him a shout here as well, but he's overpriced. He's a big price at 16s. You know, that is way too big. I'll probably back him as well at that kind of price, just because it's such a bad race. He's got first-time cheek pieces on as well. But yeah, just a really disappointing race. But at least, I suppose, from a betting point of view, it is competitive. And yeah, not strong in him, but I just side with Zanny here.
Yeah, the strength of the race is why I'm with Glory and Fortune. I'm hoping that I take the point about the ground. I'm just hoping that it stays, you know, no worse than good to soft. The rain might come, but it's not guaranteed to. But I do think stepping up on trip will really suit him the way he stayed on for 5th in the Champion last time. You can see that both Deasy and Donn have put up Brewing Up a Storm. And if you're watching the broadcast, you'll see that we have 2 different spellings of Brewing Up a Storm. One person has spelled it correctly and one person has missed out the apostrophe. Do we think it's the award-winning journalist that spelled it correctly or the award-nominated tipster? Yes, it's Donn. Well done, Donn.
All right, pedantic Pat. Calm down.
Vote for Deasy. Right, we move on. Let's move on to the. So we're missing out the Fox Hunters, Pedantic Pat. I love that. That'll be my nickname. This is the Close Brothers Red Rum Handicap Chase. It's the 440. The prices are in front of you with 8.2 𝗕𝗏 𝗣𝗚𝗀 heading the field from king 𝗲𝗏. I'm not going to read them all out because there are a load. When we get to them, I will give them to you. So a few selections here. I mean, this is frightening that everyone agrees on one horse. Donn.
Yeah, I've been through this race quite a bit, and it's a race in which you need to be handy. And even if they go a million like they did last year, you still need to be handy. Editor Jeet made just about all the running last year, as he tends to do. Moon over Germany wasn't far off the pace from the get-go, and he led early the year before, sorry, 2 years before that when they last had the race. And a lot of those towards the top of the mark, like 𝗕𝗏 𝗣𝗚 likes to be held up, king 𝗲𝗏 likes to be held up, Gaelic Coast, Bold Enough, they all like to be held up, whereas before midnight, I just like his style of racing. He likes to go forward. He does jump a wee bit to his left. So he did well to win at Ascot on his 3 runs ago. And then last time at Doncaster, he was only just beaten by Finnumbola Sivola, who ran a big race then in the Champion Chase. And he was probably on the wrong side of the track that day as well. He was towards the far side. Finnumbola Sivola came down the near side. And I thought he battled on well. He's meeting nothing of that caliber here. He's got the same rating of 148 coming in here. And yeah, I just think that he's 9 years old, but he's still progressive. Sam Tristan-Davies is back on board. I think there's plenty to like about him. And yeah, he's favourite, but 7.0 or thereabouts. I think that's fair.
Well, and he's 10.0 on the Matchbook exchange. So there you go. I completely agree for everything you said. You want to be handy. He did best from up with the pace last time. I think win and place, you're almost certainly getting your money back, and hopefully he wins. Rixie.
Yeah, the only worry I'd say with him is just the watering ground situation, because I think he's a proper good ground horse. That would be the only worry. Looking at the going, we didn't get a going stick reading this morning, unfortunately, but the going stick readings are similar to the start of the meeting last year, maybe even a little bit lower on the hurdles course especially, which suggests that there might be a fair bit of juice in the ground and Aintree are letting on. Look, I just think we're going to have to play this meeting kind of as it runs in terms of the ground. But yeah, look, I think Donn summed up before midnight well there. You know, that form behind Finnumbola Sivola has obviously been boosted since he went on to win it at Newbury in the Game Spirit, and then he probably progressed a little bit further by running second in the Champion Chase. So yeah, as long as the ground doesn't get too soft for him, I really like him. Can put in the odd howler of a jump now, to be fair to him, but he's got a wonderful attitude, that horse, and flat track on good ground really suits.
DC, what do you want to add?
Yeah, he was going to win the Grand Annual until they ruined the ground. So this is really just a mission to get all the anti-post money I lost there back.
I just say, I know they put 5 mil on, but it shit it down for 7 hours. I don't think it would have made much difference. But go on.
All right.
Pedantic Pat.
Pedantic Pat is back.
All right, yeah. Tom's weather forecast. Yeah, I just think he's a very good horse. He's a very good just front running, 2-mile chaser. I like him a lot. He obviously doesn't have much put at the weights here, but I think he's a very good horse. And Sam Thomas is a brilliant trainer on the up. So I'm going to stick with him. He's a nice price as well, 10.0. So he was the only selection in the race for me.
I'm going to add Guns. Gunside Ridge. Sorry, Deasy.
Sorry, Gwen.
That's right. We made that work really well. It's like we work together all the time. Gunsight Ridge will be not too far away. The absolute Donn's point. I think you want to be up there, and his form, even the Bundoran form, is very strong. Where he beat that horse. That horse came out and won subsequently. L'Empresse. We know about that form. And at Sandown last time, he did best from up with the pace. He's had a break. I think that's key because he had a hard race at Sandown the time prior. Yeah, like him a lot. Gunsight Ridge. Right. Let's move on to lays. I think we've only got one, which is you, Dees. Who is your lay?
Look, Pied Piper is my lay simply because he's the shortest price favourite of the day, and I think he might have had a hard race at Cheltenham. Gordon Dinners out of form, so if he's going to be around in 2.0 even money, I would have a small lay bet on him.
Okay. Nobody else has come up with one. I'm with all the favourites, so I'm not really laying anything. Best bets then on the Thursday. Rixie, your best bet.
My best bet, I think, is going to be Warlord in the opening race on Thursday. I hope his jumping will be the difference between him and Pictori. Any watering the ground be in his favour, and I'm looking really forward to seeing him step up and trip.
Don, your best bet on Thursday?
Brazil, yeah, for all the reasons outlined earlier, I just think he's a very, very good horse. He's got the potential to be even better than he's shown so far. I think there's room for improvement in his jumping, and when he does become a wee bit more fluent in his jumping, he could progress significantly. And yeah, I think he should be favourite in front of Pied Piper.
Okay, my best bet is the horse I just made the case for, which is Gunsight Ridge, win and place. I think he's a very fair price based upon the strength of his form and the fact that he's had a break. And Deasy, your best bet?
My best bet is Pictori in the first race to just have a bit more ability than the rest of them.
Lovely job. Let's, in fact, before we move on, let me tell you about the sign-up offer. It's now a £30 welcome offer. It's money back as a free bet, if your first bet loses. It's a £30 welcome offer, money back as a free bet if your first bet loses. It's new customers only. You've got to use the bonus code INSIGHTS30. That's 30. Place your first bet. If it loses, you'll get your stake refunded as a free bet up to £30. The full terms and conditions are on the website. 18 plus, be gamble aware. Let's move on to Friday's action, then the 220 and the top Novices Hurdle, which has John Bonn at even money, 𝗕𝗲𝘗𝗁, who is 4.0, First Street 6.0, Orcan Risk is 13.0, and bigger prices beyond that. Okay, Rixie, make the case for John Bonn.
Yeah, well, probably should start off by saying really kind of strange market moves around this race. The market was suggesting John Bonn wouldn't run, and there was a number of horses backed against him, but Nicky Henderson has decided to run him here. I think he's just about, he has got the best form on offer, to be fair. I think with the likes of Orcan Risk, 𝗕𝗲𝘗𝗁 and Salamanca Bay in here, the pace should be honest, and I think he'll enjoy that, because I think he's probably a little bit of a stayer, John Bonn. I think we saw that in the Supreme. Constitution Hill made him look like he was a 120 handicapper after jumping the second last, which is just an outrageous performance. Yeah, look, I think there's been a lot said in how John Bonn was ridden that day. I just think Nicky Henderson said, look, the only way you're going to beat Constitution Hill is if you turn this into a gallop. And I think that's what Aidan Coleman did. I think getting back on some softer ground is definitely going to suit John Bonn. He's a nice mover overall, but he's a little bit scratchy in front. He's probably short enough now. I maybe want 6-4, 7-4, ideally, because I do think First Street, just in terms of pure ability, doesn't have that much to find with him. Henderson's other runner, but I think he's going to hate this track. And then the Mullins team have got this 𝗕𝗲𝘗𝘁𝗁 win, who I was hearing good things about earlier in the season. They really like this horse. They think he's going to be a serious chaser next year. He's a bit of an unknown quantity. I had him running to 132 at Tramore. I had John Bonn running to 149 at Haydock. He's got to improve. Now, I think it's very hard for these horses. I know he's run over hurdles in France. Going from a maiden hurdle in Ireland to a Grade 1, is same as a maiden into a Group 1 and flat. It's very tough on horses, especially given that race at Tramore he busted from the front. I think there's a couple of horses in here who won't allow him to do that. So I just think with John Bonn having the best form, the professionalism, a good jumper, going to enjoy getting back on softer ground, trained by top man and Nicky Henderson, he wouldn't be running here if he didn't think he was in good order. I think he's going to take a fair bit of beating. But, I think maybe a little bit on the short side if I'm being a little bit picky, just in terms of raw ability.
Okay, all I'll add is I think he's fair enough at 2.0. I'd much rather have him at anything bigger than odds on than 𝗕𝗲𝘗𝘁𝗁 off the back of one Tramore win on heavy ground at 4.0 in a first-time hood. Yuck. But, Donn.
Yeah, to be honest, it's probably a no-bet race for me, but I just think a lot of what Declan said about 𝗕𝗲𝘗𝘁𝗁, like the vibe about him before Tramore was very, very strong. After he won at Tramore, it was even stronger, obviously. Paul Townend seemed to love him. and he just won as easily as he liked. And the horse that finished second, Temple Chapter 2, his stable companion, he went out and won really impressively at Fairyhouse next time. So, I think he had a wee bit of a setback just after that, which ruled him out of Cheltenham. But the fact that Willie Mullins is bringing him over to Aintree and not keeping him for, well, probably Punchestown more than Fairyhouse. Maybe he can run at Punchestown as well. Punchestown is what, 2.5 weeks later. But I just think he could be a very serious horse. Look, there are 100 unknowns about him. He's never run on ground this good before. All his runs in France were on very soft ground, although appears to be always very soft ground. And in France, and the day at 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁, that's album photo day, it was heavy ground that day. So we don't know how he's going to operate on better ground. But the fact that Willie Mullins is sending him over, obviously he thinks that he's going to be okay on better ground. I just think he's a very exciting horse in his first time hood. I just think he's a horse worth watching and worth keeping on side with the long term in mind. Surprise package is interesting. Peter Fahey, who did this last year, he brought Belfast Banter on from winning the County Hurdle at Cheltenham to win this race, a Grade 1. Surprise package, didn't win the county. He finished 6th. He was a close-up 6th. He did win the Imperial Cup, obviously, and he's coming on here. So he's interesting. He doesn't have that much to find on ratings. So I'd keep him in the mix as well at a decent price. But no, I'm just looking forward to seeing 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁 again.
Deasy.
Yeah, Dan kind of said everything I was going to say there. Just like there was a lot of word for him, and he was, he was in the Supreme. They thought he went being a dark horse for the Supreme. That race, they run him in 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁. That's where they started off San Ra a couple of years ago as well. He turned out to be much better than that. And I just think he's worth to go at a bigger price, because if he won, I'd be sick. The other one in the race that I would have a bit of time for as well is Chris Gordon's horse Lock and Risk. I think he's progressed nicely this year. He was a good bumper horse as well last year, and Chris Gordon has 5 winners from his last 9 runners. When he was hot, he was very hot. He's well worth a trainer following blind when they're running well from. So at a bigger price, I'd have a little win place betting him too. But I think 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁 could be very good.
I'll tell you what, this fella could be some chaser next year. I know we're not going to talk anti-post, obviously, but if you do fancy horses at these meetings and you think they're going to win ahead of races next year at Cheltenham, I think it's worth getting them on side, because bookmakers are getting so stingy now with anti-post prices, even this far out for next year's festival. This fella looks like he's going to be serious horse over a fence.
Lock and Risk. Is it?
No.
𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁.
Yeah. And no offense to Chris Gordon and his Lock and Risk, but yeah. I'll be surprised if Rixie was talking about that one. Imagine. I hope Chris Gordon's not watching.
To be fair to Chris.
No, he hasn't quite.
Willie's won 1 or 2.
Just about. Right, let's move on to the frighteningly competitive Mildmay Novices Chase. Right, there's 3 shouts for Brave Man's Game, and Deasy can kick us off. How confident are you, Deasy?
Fairly confident, yeah, as long as it's not bottomless. I think that just because a hoist in your Land Press, they had a hard race at Cheltenham, and it's going to be hard to back it up. Brave Man's Game has been safe for this. I think I kind of fancied him for that race at Cheltenham before he was pulled out. We know that no stone is going to be left unturned now to get this horse to win today, because Paul Nicholls is going to, if he wins, he'll be giving it on to people. If he doesn't win, it's not going to look great. So I think he should win. I think he's probably better than him. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I like the fresh angle. I thought watching, a hoist in your, he must have some engine to jump like he did and still finish second. But then, part of me thinks that Farouk Delane may have gone on and won the race. I don't know. I think a hoist in your will lead, and that concerns me back at a flatter track. For some reason, the one I don't want to back is L'Homme Pressé, and I've come down on Brave Man's Game. But then I'm looking at 6.0 Hoist Senior and thinking all of a sudden that's a big price. So go on, Don. Why Hoist Senior?
I just think he's the wrong price, Tom. Look, L'Homme Pressé could be very, very good. Well, he is very, very good, and he could progress again next season. I'd worry about him on the ground. Like, Declan makes good points about the ground. It could be softer than I'm kind of legislating for, but I think it's going to be good to soft generally. That's what I'm kind of basing everything on. And I think 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁 might be a wee bit better on softer ground. And he got the rain, obviously, before the second day of the Cheltenham Festival. And he was very impressive. And I thought he beat a 𝗲𝘁𝘁𝗁𝗀𝗀 with more in hand than the 3.5 length winning margin. But I agree with you, Tom. Like what 𝗲𝘁𝘁𝗁𝗀 did to make the mistakes that he made, especially the mistake at the third last. He went into the fence kind of disputing second place. He got it all wrong. He came out of it in fourth, under pressure and having to play catch up at the absolute wrong time of the race, just when the pace was increasing. So I thought he did really well to get as close as he did to 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁. The fact that he won the Sefton Hurdle here last year, that's massive in my book. You know, he proved that that was his kind of coming of age, or that was his arriving on the scene. He was a 66-to-1 shot that day. He beat Brave Man's Game on merit, I thought, beat him well. And, you know, I just think he shouldn't be as far behind Brave Man's Game in the market as he is, for all that Brave Man's Game comes in here as a fresh horse. And I think if he can get into his rhythm in front, I wouldn't mind him leading. I'd like to see him leading and just, you know, getting into that rhythm and putting it up to them, because he stays well. He can't jump as badly as he jumped at Cheltenham. On a flatter track should suit him better. He didn't jump badly at Wetherby when he won the Topham. And yeah, I just think he's a horse he's got a serious engine, and he should be much closer to the top two in the market than he is.
Rixie.
Yeah, look, I'm going to side with Brave Man's Game, but just a kind of quick chat about the Brown advisory first. I thought Derek Fox gave 𝗲𝘁𝘁𝘁𝗀 an awful ride. Like, you know, we talk about rides in races. People get really kind of head up about jockeys who get blocked in and then run on strongly. You know, I think you need luck. Jockeys need luck like any other kind of sports person. Sometimes that happens. But pace for me is when jockeys is what really are really bad rides. He let a horse going up in trip dominate a really tactical race. I thought it was awful. If there was one thing about 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁𝗁 that was the worry going into that race, it was about him staying. Derek Fox needed to turn that into a real stamina test and try and outstay his rival. He didn't. He jumped off handy. The horse looked in great order, but Charlie Deutsch gave the winner a superb ride. The clock was outstanding by him. Even though he was going up in trip, he trusted himself. And, you know, Deasy said earlier he'd be a little bit worried about those two having a hard race. I wouldn't, just because it was such a tactical race. I know it was soft ground, but I think it was probably the type of nice soft ground, because they had so much rain, you get through it nicely. So I wouldn't be as worried about that. But I just think overall, I think Brave Man's Game is a better horse than all these. I really
just before we come on to Brave Man's Game, just to go back to the Derek Fox point, was it a case possibly that the horse didn't allow him to make it more of a stamina test just because he wasn't jumping as well as he wanted?
Well, maybe, yeah. Look, I think he's better right-handed jumping. He does jump out to his right a little bit, and he obviously can make plenty of mistakes. But Derek Fox just left Charlie Deutsch control this way from a long way out. I think it was well before they went out on the final circuit. I think it was maybe going to 3 out on the first circuit that Deutsch went to the front. And, you know, it was a really tactical race. I know people are going to think 3 miles, soft ground, it was a real stamina race. It wasn't. It was really, really tactical. It was a brilliant ride from Charlie Deutsch. And look, he's a big, massive galloper, this 𝗲𝘁𝘁𝘁𝘁𝘁𝘁. If he's going to win races, he's going to win it by staying. He just looks that type of horse. We saw it when he's clashed twice with Brave Man's Game at Kempton. He just got outpaced on soft ground. He needs to go a gallop and turn it into a stamina test. I'm hoping he doesn't, because I want to back Brave Man's Game. So I just think he's a better horse, and he's a slightly fresher horse as well, and he's the best jumper in the field. Yeah, so I'm going to side with Brave Man's Game, but I just thought that was maybe interesting, just talking about the rides from Cheltenham. Just in terms of ratings, I've got 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁𝗁𝘁 on 155 and Brave Man's Game on 159. So just in terms of ratings, you know, I think the Brave Man's Game could even be, if he was slightly odds on, I wouldn't be totally against that. So I'm just going to side with the Nichols horse at the prices. But I do like this not Brave Man's Game. I do like him, obviously, but I like 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁𝘁𝑁 as well. Charlie Deutsch, after the last, gave him just a little flick of the whip, and he just took off again. He's a horse with a lot of class and a great attitude. So even though it's only 4 runners, I'm really looking forward to this race. Even Fury Road, if the ground wasn't too soft, you know, he's a horse with a lot of class on a going day. and a tactical race would really suit him if his jumping holds up. So even there's only 4 runners in this race, I'm really looking forward to it.
It's the race I'm most looking forward to. You got me fired up here. I'm going to ask another question on it. The hour's gone, lads, so apologies. But I think we're on to an interesting point here. If you wanted to have a bet in the run, which of course you can do with Matchbook, this is open to anyone, would how they line up, or would anyone want to see them over the first couple to see what sort of tempo they're going and who is where in the race before committing to a bet or not? Or would that change what you're thinking? Anyone?
I'd be surprised if 𝗲𝗁 Senior didn't lead. Sorry, Declan.
Yeah, no, free for away.
I think it's a 4-horse race. It's a no-brainer. Kick on, and as Declan was saying earlier, make it a stamina test. I'd be amazed if they didn't do that. It didn't work the last day against 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁. It just had more pace than them, even on the ground. And yeah, exactly as Declan says, he's a big galloping horse who has got a serious engine. So make best. I mean, what else are you going to do with 4 horses in the race? You're not going to sit in behind again. I wouldn't have thought anyway.
Rixie?
Yeah, look, even at the prices there, Fury Road, just in terms of raw ability, I think he's a big price. He's double figures, is he, in a 4-runner race? The small field would suit him. You know, he's got a lot of class, this horse. And since the cheek pieces went on that day at Leopardstown when he won the Grade 1, I loved it. He actually seemed to knuckle down a little bit, which is unlike him. Like if he got into a nice rhythm and the ground on the Friday was riding, you know, pretty good, you know, I think he's all, just in terms of pure ability, he's definitely overpriced. So he's maybe one you could have a look at in the run if he got into a nice jumping rhythm. And then on the Thursday as well, that Gordon Elliott horse has performed well.
He's a funny fish, Fury Road. I can't forgive him for not winning the Trenmore Chase.
Yeah.
Can't forgive him for that one. But you're right, the cheek pieces are a big help to him, or seem to be, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
no, he's got class. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anything else to add to this? Right, I think it's the fact we spent so long on it is because it's such an interesting race. Did anyone want to add anything? On we move. Right. I don't even know where we're going now. Oh yeah, the 3:30. The Marsh registered as the Melling. Last year's winner is 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁𝗁, who is a 2.5 shot. Untitled Chapter is 7.0. So Royale is 10.0. All Mankind and Captain Guinness and Mr. Fisher 11.0. I'm not going to go through any more. Okay, 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁𝗁 for Deasy and I. Go on, Deasy.
Look, he's going to piss up here, really, isn't it? This is perfect conditions.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's not a 3-mile horse. He's 2.5-mile horse. They didn't bother going for the Ryanair because there was no point. He was good the last time. Could have had a hard enough race the last time. I think in Ascot that was soft enough going there that day, but I just think he's far and away better than all of these horses, and 2.5 is a great price for that. So, yeah.
And he's a proven stayer at the distance. Untitled Chapter, not. So Royale, not. Captain Guinness, he's not getting this distance, is he? Mr. Fisher, yeah, he stays this far. I thought he was half interesting, but I just think the horse that won it last year is going to do exactly the same. You want to put up Hitman for a place, Dees, because you're brave.
Yeah, I again, it's the freshest angle. Like he had a few good ones there at the start of the season behind Eldorado Allen and Grenadine there. He finished second. Like he's running over 2 miles, and he always kind of doesn't really get 2 miles. He does get 2 miles. He doesn't get his head in front enough. The last time he ran over 2.5, or he ran over 2.5 miles in Newbury last year and won. I think the step up and trip will suit him. I think he's a nice fresh angle. I think he's a nice jumper. I like the way Hitman jumps. I think he makes a bit of ground with his jumping. I always like that in a horse, and he's going to be a big enough price. I can see him running into the top 3, so I'll have a little place betting him to finish behind 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁𝗁, and I might do the forecast as well.
15.0 he is. Okay, so I copied Rixie on his lay here because I thought it was a good shout, because I wanted to place lay something stepping up in trip. So you can do that and make your case, Rixie, and then we'll come to Donn's selection.
Is this the lay or the bet?
Both.
Although
actually, don't flesh out the lay case. You can just say who it is. But who you want to bet first of all?
I was going to lay Captain Guinness, but then I bottled it. If you remember, we were adding in our selections at the same time. I saw that, but then I bottled it. So yeah, stats and trends wise, this is a bad race for horses stepping up in trip who haven't got proven 2.5 mile form. So and Captain Guinness can be a little bit keen. Henry de Bromhead's horses aren't really running well, so I thought maybe he could be one for the place lay. At the price, though, I'm going to back All Mankind. I'll just crack on with the selection, get out of the way. All Mankind, Enter the Jeet, 𝗕𝗁𝘁𝗄𝗏 𝗕𝗏𝘁, and Pain the Dream all like to go forward. So I think it's going to be, it's going to be a decent test of stamina. Fakir Duderi is a nice horse, but I just think he's a proper 160 horse. He's not a superstar anywhere near it. I loved what All Mankind did over this course and distance in the Old Roan at the start of the season. It was a serious performance. He gave Itchy Feet, Midnight Shadow, Fanny and Destraval, Nutswell all weight, and he beat them really well. I was reading Harry Skelton's blog earlier this morning. He said they've changed things around with him at home, and he's coming back into a bit of form. He's double figures. He's way overpriced if he produced that Old Roan form. The only thing with him, obviously, is I'd like to see the closer to good, the better his chance, because he is that kind of horse. So, it's going to be All Mankind for me here. And maybe All Mankind without Fakir Duderi, because he is solid and he comes here fresh enough.
Okay, so sorry, I put you away there. So my lay in this race is I'm going to place lay Captain Guinness, because, Don, I watching back the last few races of his, and in particular the Leopardstown race, I cannot see how the 2.5 is going to suit. But you like him, so take it away.
Yeah, well, I'm on side with him, Tom, because he's running. I've been suckered into Captain Guinness quite a lot, but I'm looking forward to seeing him over 2.5 miles, actually. He's related to Jerry's back at 3 mile chaser. He's never gone beyond 2 miles on a furlong, I think. But he just falls below the top-notch 2 miles. Like, he doesn't have Shotgun 𝗕𝗏𝗄's pace over 2 miles. But he stayed on well the last day at Naas. He beat Andy Dufresne earlier in the season, the popular square chase at Naas. Andy Dufresne ran a big race at Cheltenham, albeit in a handicap. And I think that given his breeding, and look, I think he could improve for stepping up to 2.5 miles. He's a horse he's been knocking heads with the top 2 mile chases always, like an Ergamin, Shishkin, Shotgun 𝗕𝗏𝗄. And I just think that, okay, he's not as good as them over 2 miles, but the step up and trip, I think it could unleash more latent potential that we haven't seen from him yet. And he goes into the race in good form. He beat Blackbow well the last day at Naas, and he stayed on well up the hill at Naas on soft ground. I just think over 2.5 miles, and they're going to go fast, so that'll help. Declan's right. He's a free going type, but All Mankind with him in the race, he's going to set a pace that should allow him settle. Look, you have to respect, obviously, Fakir Duderi. He was very good last year. He was second best behind Allaho over 2.5 miles on a couple of occasions. I just thought it took him all his time last time to beat 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝗀 at Ascot. 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝗀's a Grand National horse. 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝗀 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝗀, I just don't think he gets 2.5 miles. Like, we know he doesn't get 2.5 miles, and I'm well against him. And yeah, like, I just think Captain Guinness, there's not a lot of love for him around in general, especially when he runs in Britain. I think he's a horse that's generally underrated, and I think the step up to 2.5 miles, like, there is a chance, obviously, that he won't stay it, but I think there's a good chance that he will. And if he does, I think he's got a big chance of winning the race.
Let's kick on to the Topham then next, which is the 405. And again, I'm not going to give you the prices here because it's about 11.0 the field. Rixie, I know you're sitting this one out. I'll come straight back at you, Don, a trainer that's got a good record in this.
Yeah, Willie Mullins. Name any race, he's probably got a good record in it.
Probably. So true.
Yeah, look, Rendezvous, he's a Galway Plate winner. Okay, he's £8 higher than he was when he won the Galway Plate, but I like his style. He does jump a wee bit to his right, which is a wee bit of a concern when you go around the canal turn. If you jump to your right, that's not a positive. But he's probably had this race on his radar for a while. He's owned by Dr. Fitzgerald of Randock's health fame. So I think they bought him originally as a potential Grand National horse. That hasn't worked out. He just doesn't stay. But it's a good race for him. His forward going style of racing, no more than on the Mildmay track, over the Mildmay fences on the chase track, you want to be handy. You definitely want to be handy in the Topham. It's like the Grand National. You want to get into your rhythm over the big fences. And yeah, as you say, Tom, with Willie Mullins' record and the race he's won the last 2 renewals of this, I can see him running a big race. Spirit of the Games was on my radar as well. I thought he ran really well last time behind in 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗀's race at Cheltenham. He did well to come from the back in a race in which the pace held up well, but I just think he's a hold-up horse, and he's going to need a lot of luck and running to get involved in the Topham, I think. you really, in my book anyway, you need to be up there handy on Topham. And yeah, I think Royal Rendezvous, he's 10 years old, but he's a likely race 10-year-old. I think he's only run 9 times over fences. So yeah, I think he's going to be a big player. I'm surprised he's as big a price as he is.
Yeah, I've just gone away from what price he was. Deasy, I know you're with this horse, 17.0, and another one as well.
17. Very nice. Yeah, look, the way he won that Galway Plate last year showed to be a very good horse. And they kept him back for the year for that. Like, as Dan said, he's fairly unexposed as a chaser. You know, he's got top weight, but I'd say he's very, very good. And if he can win like that over Galway, he can definitely stay the trip here. The other one I was looking at, who was just a big price, I had a short list of about 17 for this, but I went for 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁, Ted Walsh's horse. Now he's a 10-year-old as well. He has spent most of his career knocking around an official rating of 114, 115, but he wins a lot for the application of cash. I think his last win was last August. He won at Killarney, beating the West Wake, and he opened up at 8.0 and won at 5.0. That was a fairly chunky move. Ted has obviously got any second now in the Grand National. I think it's just a very interesting runner. I think this is his first trip over to England as well. He's a good chaser. He's a good solid chaser. Trip should be no bother. Ground should be no bother. He's going to be a big price, so I'll do him win place.
21.0 𝗵𝗲𝘁𝗁. I've got a 21.0 shot as well in the form of Janica, who I think was 4th in this race a few years ago. And then he missed Aintree the following year. They ran over hurdles last year. He needs a reversal of his form because he's dropped a mark of 143, which is about £20 lower than when he ran in this race and was placed, because he's hardly shown up. But blinkers on for the first time. It's a race I want to take a big price about. I thought he was well worth having a few quid on at that sort of price. And the other one who I'm sort of more excited about the prices is Riders on the Storm, who I've had a go at a few times this year. He has been disappointing, bar his run at Aintree, albeit over regulation fences in December. He's now rated 140. He's very well treated. He'll line up at the head of the fairs. I think 𝗕𝗲𝘁 Woods will suit him really well. So that you'll probably know your fate after a few fences. But again, he's too well treated. 𝗕𝗲𝘁 Woods on board to go forward, I think is worth trying. And he is 41.0. You never know. Let's move on to the last race we're looking at, Grand Sefton. And sorry, not the Grand Sefton, it's just the Sefton, isn't it? Banbridge is the horse that heads the betting at 3.5. Skytastic is 7.0. Crystal Glory 9.0. As is Gelino Bello. Then bigger prices off the back of that. Some Grade 1 this. Who do we like? Rixie, back to you.
Yeah, competitive stuff here. I think Banbridge deserves to be head of the market. The worry with him though is the trip. He did win over 2.5 at the Martin Pipe at the Cheltenham Festival. But tactically, that was a farcical race. He was given a very good ride by Mark McDonough that day. Anything held up or needed a gallop in that race really struggled, which has sometimes been the case at the Martin Pipe. You never want to be too far away from the speed. So although he has won over 2.5, I don't think he's won off an end-to-end gallop. So the trip is a little bit of a worry, especially here. We've got Bow to Greatness, Bridge North, Fair Frontiers, or whatever. I butchered that anyway. Gentleman at Arms and Staghorn. Plenty of pace on in this race. So yeah, I think it was worth taking him on. The two that I liked, I was maybe going to Dutch Crystal Glory of Nicky Richards even. Bloody hell, I'm having a nightmare today. He was second to Hillcrest at Haydock in the Prestige Novices. And do you know what? I thought he ran really well. He was comfortably beaten in the end, getting weight from him. But he travelled into the race with a bit of class, and he's got form over the trip, and he stayed very well that day. I think if Hillcrest came straight from there to here, we'd probably be talking about him as maybe a 6-4 shot. He's obviously not going to run here. I just thought he had a touch of class. The Nicky Richards horses are running well. Sean Quillen is a jockey I like, especially riding up north. And the other horse, I like Paul Nicholls' Gelino Bello. I liked him at the start of the season when he won here at Aintree. He really impressed me that day. How he quickened and how he jumped. I thought he was going to you know, kind of as the season progressed, go on and be a main player in kind of the Albert Bartlett. But it sounds like the Nichols team have kept him back for this race. He ran okay behind Cobbler's Dream in the Lanzarote, but that was at a stage of the season when the Nichols horses weren't running great. Cobbler's Dreams then went on and ran well behind Banbridge in the Martin Pipe. So I just think stepping up in trip, he's a son of Santes Son, who those horses stay well. I think he could go well for the Nichols team. I was hoping maybe for a little bit bigger about the two of those.
9.0.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe just for double figures on the both, but they're two horses I like, and I just think with the race, it looks like it's going to be a useful test of stamina, which could mean Banbridge is vulnerable, and I like the two of those horses. So, yeah, I'll kind of put up those two, maybe kind of 2 1-point win bets on the two of those.
You're looking at a big price, fairly big price, 15.0 Deasy.
Yeah, he's a Gentleman at Arms is the horse I'm backing, Stuart Edmonds' horse. He's been on my radar now for the whole year. I saw him win. It was on Boxing Day at Huntington, and he absolutely bolted up. He won by 13 lengths. Came out the next time, and he finished second to Staghorn in that Warwick race. Again, he was a big price that day. He was 17.0. Then he went out again. He ran back to Huntington. He finished, I think that's the Sydney Banks, is it? Yeah, in the Sydney Banks, beaten the neck by LA Bell. Now, he was giving her loads away at that day. She's a high class horse, and he was unlucky to be beaten. I thought. No, he ran a cracking race. He won it at very short as the last time. I think, to be honest, they gave him a run in an easier race so he'd get his head in front and get a bit of confidence. He's a big enough price for this. Stuart Edmonds he definitely had one winner last year at Aintree, if not two. He'd hometown boy, landed a big gamble in the first race on the Saturday. I think he had a second one as well. I can't find it here now, but he's been kept back for this, and he's a nice horse. I think he'll go on to be a good one. It's a very good race. There was a few in here now that I like. I think Skytastic could be a good one as well, but I'm going to stick with the big price and just go for Gentleman at Arms to win place.
Yes, it's competitive, isn't it? When I said it's some grade one, I mean it's not the hottest as in like talent wise, but I think it's a really interesting betting heat. As a result, I wanted to have something at a price which was Staghorn, who was ahead of Gentleman at Arms before disappointing at Cheltenham. I don't know. I'm willing to forgive him the run at Cheltenham. Maybe he didn't like the track. He was disappointing, but you know, I'm sure he's better than that. I was really impressed with his Warwick run. So he is 13.0. It's actually shortened up a bit, which is annoying. Dom.
Yeah, look, I'm at the top of the market on this one, Tom. I couldn't get away from the top two, really. Juvenile Hurdle, all what Declan said, I agree with all of that. Plus, he won his maiden hurdle at Aintree. He ran well in the Lanzarote hurdle. He was up in the van. He was towards the inside as well, and he wasn't beaten that far in the end by Cobbler's Dream. And like, he won an egg and spoon race last time. He's fresh. He missed Cheltenham coming on here, but I prefer Banbridge, and he's a horse who he always shaped earlier in the season as if he would be better over further. Like, he did well to win at Naas and his last run before Cheltenham. That was over 2 miles, where he stayed on really well and stepped up to 2.5 miles in the Martin Pipe. I thought 2.5 miles would be his trip, but actually, and then when he was entered here, I was thinking, oh, maybe 3 miles. And he's bred for it. He's from the family of Major Malarkey, who finished second in the Midlands National. Valley Henry's in that family as well, a 3 mile chaser. So Richard Barber, I think, and Paul Nichols. And that Martin Pipe hurdle, it is a race that it does tend to go to horses who get further than 2.5 miles in time, like Galopin de Champs won it last year. Indefatigable won it. She's a staying hurdler. Don Poli won it. Kilultavik won it. It's a race that does tend to be used by horses to step forward from 2.5 miles. And again, the fact that Joseph O'Brien is running him over 3 miles, he obviously thinks that he'll at least get the trip and possibly even improve for it. So look, I know he's favourite, but I think he's the right favourite.
Okay, on to best lays. We've got 2 lays, one from Rixie, one from I, both in the Melling. Rixie, yours is? Oh no, it's Don. My apologies. Look at that.
Yeah, no, I bottled my Captain Guinness one.
You bottled it, didn't you? That's right. And I copied you on it.
I'll obviously claim it if he finishes 4.
Yeah. Well, I'll do mine, which is Captain Guinness as a place lay, which is Don's selection. I've really made the case for why. And Don, you've got a place lay, which is?
𝗕𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃, yeah, over 2.5 miles. I just don't think he stays the trip in the, like early in the season, over 2.5 miles in the Peterborough Chase, where they didn't go a great pace. And then in the handicap chase on New Year's Day, he traveled really well through his race and then just didn't get home. And I guess their hand is forced a wee bit. There's no 2-mile chase. He's finished second in the champion chase, so there's no 2-mile chase at Aintree. He has to go up to 2.5 miles. Remember Moscow Flyer doing that and going and winning, and suddenly they went, oh, he stays 2.5 miles as well as everything else. But I can see 𝗕𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃 traveling. If you are place laying him, there'll be a hairy few moments when he travels really well, and will probably travel like a likely winner for a little way at least. But that entry from the second last fence home, it's some pull. And how many times do you see horses losing lots of places from that run across the track over to the final fence and then home? I can see 𝗕𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃 just fading from that point. Look, he's a very talented horse, and he ran a massive race in the champion chase at a big price, but that was over 2 miles, and I just don't think he stays 2.5.
You'll be getting a great price though when he hits the front there to place lane, because the price is going to drop drastically if he's running well. So maybe in running place there
gets more complicated.
It does, yeah. There you go. Put that up as your best bet, and then our heads will really be fried. Right, best bets. My best bet comes in said Melling, which is we're making it far too complicated because the favourite's going to go and win. 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁𝗃 to win it again is my best bet. Donn, who's your best bet?
It's 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁𝗀 in the Mildmay Chase. I just think he's the wrong price. I think he should be much closer to Braveman's Game, whom he beat last year in the Sefton Hurdle here, than he is. I thought the run that he put up in finishing second behind 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁𝗀𝗃 in the Brown Advisory was a massive run for a horse who didn't jump well, particularly at the third last fence. I think if he can jump a wee bit better, hopefully out in front, then he could outrun his odds.
DC, your best bet?
Yeah, 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃 is going to win it odds on, so take the price now.
Love it. And Rixie.
Yes, well, myself and Don McClean started this pod by holding hands with many selections, but we're going to be knocking heads on the last day. My best bet is Braveman's Game. I think he's got the best form in the race. He's overpriced, and he's coming here fresher than his market rivals. So Braveman's Game for me on Friday.
Great stuff. Thanks, everyone. I know we're over the hour, but I enjoyed it anyway, particularly that chat about the Braveman's Game race. I cannot wait for that contest. I think it's the best one on offer over the first couple of days. Don't forget for our Grand National preview or Grand National Day preview, we're going to be doing all the 7 races, starting with the Grand National. That'll be happening at 9 o'clock on Friday morning. So please join us for that. Otherwise, from myself, from Donn, from Deasy and Declan, Rix, we will say bye-bye. Bye all.